welcome to all of you. We will just formally start the third edition of Mathew. I will request the State Secretary, Sudhir Mohan, to have the introductory remarks, and immediately we will start the discussion.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the third edition of Mathew, the interactive dialogue session by AIPC. I have the pleasure of welcoming Mr. Yeswanth Singha from the Union, a very vocal political leader from a professional background. He was in civil service before he got into politics. I also have the pleasure of welcoming my friend as well as the People's Representative from Trivandrum, Mr. Yeswanth Singha, who is also a professional who worked in Tata Sons and Tata Trust before embarking on his political journey. I take the pleasure of welcoming Mr. Dr. Kuzhalnadan, Chairman of MES, education institution that revolutionized education in Malabar. So, let me start the affairs of the day with a quick introduction on what AIPC stands for and why we have a hot seat in this third. I also have the pleasure of welcoming Mr. P. Raji, former Member of Parliament. So, AIPC is a bunch of professionals who are determined and who are inclined to making a difference in the social sector through constructive politics, as we call it. We want to leverage our experience and expertise in various fields. We perhaps are very people from varied backgrounds, ranging from IT professionals to commercial pilots to college teachers to chartered accountants to even some civil servants who are retired. So collectively, we would like to put together our expertise and experience to bring in changes that we all love to see in society. In this era where communication is so very easy, all of us have instant access to anything that is happening in the world nowadays. And in that era, when everybody is empowered with information and knowledge, perhaps, and data, we all are bound to build some bias, some judgments, some notions, affecting our social attitudes and our approach towards social practice. And this looks like in India, which is having a very young, vibrant population of working middle class, is getting in a direction that we all look with a little apprehension. In India today, politics is synonymous to a lot of things that we all don't want to associate with. Everybody looks down upon a politician as a crook who is making money at someone's expense, or somebody who is not hesitant to use any means to achieve his goal of getting to power. This has developed some resistance towards politics, and many of our youth are very vocal in saying that they are apolitical. But in real, what's happening is they are being taken away by very organized channels of communication that looks at ideas of ultra-nationalism to retrogressing ideas around culture, language, so on and so forth. Today, we all know that the politics is controlled by controversies, or maybe sometimes politics is just about controversies. We want to make a difference to this, and that is why we have a program like Hot Seat, where we are inviting people from all sides of the dialogue. So I don't think the dignitaries in this session has the same view about anything at all. They all have very diverse, very strong, very affirmative opinions about any social issue, but not necessarily they should be in this. So politics is all about constructive debate, dialogue, and taking a stand with respect for opposition so that there is space for everyone to speak, everyone to express. In this third edition, we are talking about, in this particular edition, we are talking about demonetization and its after effects after 2 years. All of us in this room would have some experience about demonetization, good or bad, but you have an experience. And we will also look at that topic and more from the views of these respective guests we have today. So I invite you into this session of hot seat, and all we want to request to you is, whatever your side is, please take a side, please speak your opinion, please join in these conversations that are happening in every avenue of your social life, and please don't be silent, because you are the most privileged class in this country, educated, employed, well-to-do, and if you embrace silence, then who will speak for all of us? Thank you.
Much further introduction, we will directly come to our business today. So we would like to say that I told you on the way, Professional Congress is a new organization trying to engage with the professionals in various walks of life. And today's discourse is primarily to analyze or examine the economic policy of the present Modi government since last 4.5 years. In fact, in 2014, BJP had given all promises to the people of India, and on that they could make a sweeping victory in one sense, and they could form the government in the center. So, as I'm a political student, according to me, there are 3 or 4 major economic decisions taken by this government. One, of course, as the prime focus of the discussion is demonetization. Then comes the GST. Then another reform could be this bankruptcy code they have brought in. And thereafter, we could say that RERA, that real estate regulatory authority they have brought in. And the BJP or the government is speaking about so many yojanas, Ujjwal Yojana, Jan Dhan Yojana, Skill India, Make in India, and Stand Up India, Udhan, everything. So, we believe that this is a right time to have a close analysis, objective as well as academic analysis of how these policies or how the economy has been handled by the government. There is a hell of other issues which may be politically very relevant, but we would like to focus, or we would like to convey to the people of India an academic analysis of the economy at this stage. So to start with, now in 2 years before, on November 2016, evening, it was a great surprise for the entire country that demonetization was declared, and the idea behind demonetization was, said to be or claimed to be 3 objectives for that. One, definitely to crack the black money in the country, then to deal with the counterfeit currency, and then it was intended to tackle the terror funding happening in the country. So, in my limited view, in my limited observation or studies, this has failed in all the 3 counts, and also it has brought huge destruction to the economy, especially to the small and medium sector, as well as the farmers, and being a representative of the youth community of this country, I believe that the employment generation in the country was also deeply affected. So first we would like to hear from you. So what would be the idea behind demonetization? Why the government would have come out with this and such a devastating effect to the economy? So what is your response?
Before I answer your question, I'd like to first of all thank you and the professional Congress for having invited me to this evening's function. I have come rushing from Delhi. We didn't even stop at the airport for a minute because we were getting late. So I'm glad to be here, that's the first. And thank you. Now, I have spoken openly about demonetization, and if I were to reply to your question in one word, I will say it was greed. It was greed which led to demonetization. And what was the greed? The greed is, I'm not imagining, the Attorney General of India in a statement in the Supreme Court said that something like 3 to 4 lakh crore rupees would not come back to the system because that was, they imagined, the extent of black money in the country. So 3 to 4 lakhs would not come back. Then they will maneuver RBI in such a way, they are still trying to do it, that this RBI makes available to the government 3 to 4 lakh crore. And this, for any government, this huge amount of money would be a great help in doing whatever they want to do with that money. So that was the main reason. Everything else was mentioned as the main reason, but it was not. You talked about 3, there were actually 4. I think corruption, black money, then there was terrorism and counterfeit currency. And you will recall these are the 4 which were mentioned in the Prime Minister's stunning address to the nation on the 8th of November 2016. But as we went along and they realized that we are not achieving these objectives, they kept shifting the goalpost. And even on the 2nd anniversary of demonetization, recall the blog which was put out by the finance minister. He talked about the formalization of the economy. That the economy has become more formal, everything is in the system, and the owners of the monies have been identified because the money has come back. So in terms of the rules for demonetization, they kept changing it practically every day. And when they realized objectives that the Prime Minister had mentioned are not going to be achieved, they shifted the objectives. And today they're not talking of corruption, counterfeit, terrorism and all that. Winter setting. Winter had already set in, for instance, in the Kashmir Valley. And it was because of winter that there were more street protests and throwing of stones. But they took credit for it and they said, look, stone throwing, stone pelting has stopped. Now 2 years later we are wiser and we know that nothing has stopped. So all the money has come back. And demonetization will go down in the history of this country as a monumental failure, as the most ill-conceived step that any government could have thought of.
Moving from there, another major promise which was made by BJP in the 2014 elections was, and they had a plan to double the income of farmers. And recently, in the recent budget also, they have announced that they are going to make the MSP and 1.5 times the price of the input cost. But after the 4.5 years, what we witness in the country is that a huge farm distress farmers are in deep trouble. So how the overall economy management of this government has affected the farmers of this country?
I would like to tell you that for the last 2 years or so, I have been associated with farmers' movements in various parts of the country. And it's true, a lot of tall promises have been made for the farming sector, including doubling of the farmers' income. Now, as we are all aware, that has been shifted to 2022. Like everything else that the government is not likely to achieve by 2019, those objectives have been shifted. The deadline has been shifted to 2022. So doubling of farmers' income is also now targeted for 2020. There is no way in which it can be done. People have come out with research papers where they have said that Indian agriculture must grow by 10-20% per annum if farmers' income has to double. So nothing of that kind will happen, or is likely to happen even by 2022. The second is, why is there a variant distress in this country? Because in the first 4 years, the government was very, very conservative with regard to increasing the minimum support price. In the last year, entirely for electoral purposes, in which I am sure they will not succeed, they said we are accepting the Swaminathan Commission's report and we are raising the MSP to 1.5 times the cost of cultivation. Now, what is the cost of cultivation? There are 3 formulas, and what Swaminathan had suggested was the best formula for the farmer, where the cost of capital was also taken into account.
But that is not the government. Government not accepted that formula.
No, they have not accepted that formula. They have accepted all the input costs plus the farmer's labor or the farmer family labor. So that is what has been accepted. But apart from that, suppose there is a benchmark price that we buy at this, you must be prepared to buy it. Where are the farmers getting advantage of this? Because today, mandi prices are far below the MSP. And, farmers don't have the same capacity. They grow a crop and they want to sell it as soon as possible. They can't wait because there are no facilities for storage. So they can't wait for 6 months, 1 year to get MSP. So they sell as soon as possible and they are compelled to sell at below cost prices in the mandis. And that is the reason for farmer distress today, that the farmer is not getting compensation for what he has invested in. And then there are risks. I went to Vidarbha in Maharashtra, which is supposed to be the capital of farmers' resides in this country. And last year, and bollworm is an insect which had affected large tracts of cotton. And we demanded that the government should take the supplier of the seeds, in this case Monsanto, to task, but and compensate the farmer. Nothing has happened, and the farmer continues to suffer. So the farmer takes so many risks in terms of weather, in terms of diseases to the crops, and he does not get the price that he should get. That naturally will result in farmers' distress. And when the farmers in Madhya Pradesh, in a place called Mandsaur, were protesting. Then the government opened fire on them and 5 farmers were killed. So, as far as that one sector is concerned, Indian agriculture and the Indian farmers, this government's performance has been very, very poor.
Another major promise made by this government is appealing to youngsters was 1 crore jobs per year. It was offered that 1 crore jobs. But now the youngsters have started questioning where is the job. Now I wonder, the government is coming with very, very conflicting figures. In fact, Labour Bureau is coming out saying that there is hardly any job created, and even there is a job loss happening in this country. And while the government come up with new agencies to support their claim, last time I think Mr. claimed that 15 lakh jobs have been created in this country. So, is there a deliberate attempt by this government to mislead the youngsters of this country or with respect to their promises for the job, the employment generation in the nation?
You are absolutely right. There is a complete mismatch between the figures given by the government and figures given by various organizations which are tasked with the responsibility of collecting these figures. And whatever growth has taken place in the last 4 years has been largely jobless growth in this country. And the most important problem, apart from agriculture in this country, is the problem which is facing the youth of this country, who are not able to find employment opportunities. Now, why is this happening? The government is following now the simple practice of shooting the messenger. You talk to the Labour Bureau. Labour Bureau is a Government of India organization, and they, on the basis of quarterly surveys, they are coming out with figures of employment generation. Then the government got hold of some friendly economists, because these are days of friendly everything. So they got hold of some friendly economists who then said that no, Labour Bureau figures are not correct. We should go by the EPF, Employees Provident Fund organization figures. And when the government decided to do that, then there were a whole host of economists who protested and said EPFO figures cannot be considered to be employment figures, for the very simple reason that under our law, and Rajiv will confirm this, any establishment which employs 20 people or more is supposed to register with EPFO. Suppose I run an establishment and employ 15 people, or 18 people, even 19 people, and I add one more. The moment I add one more, I'll have to go register with EPFO. Now, what is the figure that EPFO will have? They'll have this figure of 20. But out of this 20, 15 or 18 or 19 were already employed. The additional employment created is 1. But the EPFO will count this as 20. So it was pointed out that it is not the correct way to judge employment figures. So they appointed a committee and told Labour Bureau, you don't have to correct any more figures of employment generation. So they have been stopped in their tracks. The committee is still deliberating about it. And meanwhile, the government is making merry on the EPFO figures, which are not the correct figures of employment generation. And there is enough anecdotal evidence to suggest that jobs have not been created in this country in numbers which are necessary. We are so far below. In fact, there has been, I will say, de-employment, because we didn't discuss it when we were discussing demonetization. The worst impact of demonetization was on the MSME sector. Yeah, and the informal sector, construction sector, for instance. So the MSME sector and construction sector, which is the largest employer, they suffered the most. Many establishments closed. Many people went back to their villages. Why is it that the government had to raise the allocation for Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme from something like 40,000 crore to 55,000 crore? I mean, I can tell you, I was a member of the last Lok Sabha, and there were no takers for Manrega jobs. Why were there no takers for Manrega jobs? Because payment was not immediate. It was all manual labor. So it was the employment of last resort. If I am starving, I have nothing else to do, no other employment, then I'll go and work under Manrega. Now, this allocation has been raised to 55,000 crore. You remember the day the Prime Minister stood in Lok Sabha and mocked the Congress party about Mahatma Gandhi Rural Employment Guarantee. He said it's a monument to your failure. And that scheme has not only been continued, it is now receiving much larger allocation, and even that is insufficient to meet the cost of labor which has been employed. So the MSME sector, the informal sector, suffered the biggest blow as a result of the monetization, and that is where unemployment, or existing jobs were lost. I would also like to point out to this very well-informed audience that people like me are challenging the growth figures of this government. And why are we challenging the growth figures? Because you perhaps are aware that the quarterly growth figures of our economy are calculated on the basis of reports from not the entire corporate sector, but some selected corporates. And then we imagine that the rest of the corporate sector would have risen or grown in tandem. And you also imagine that the MSME and the informal sector would have also grown in the same proportion. And this, I say, umbilical link between the corporate sector and the informal sector and MSME sector, this umbilical link was snapped by demonetization, as a result of which the MSME sector and the not only suffered in terms of fresh employment generation, they also suffered in terms of growth. And therefore, when the government today says we are the fastest growing large economy in the world, we have to take it with a large pinch of salt, because these figures are misleading. They don't capture the figures of growth of the MSME sector and the informal sector, and the anecdotal evidence on the ground would suggest that there is a lot of suffering still today, 2 years down the line, in those areas.
Yeah, I will take the opportunity to take the last question. The first round of discussion, then I will pass on to my colleagues regarding the economic policies of the government. After that, we can come to the latest issues of the CBI issues, any other issues we can address. As to one last on the economic front, so I would like to ask the petrol and diesel prices in this country. So on that count also, Narendra Modi has made thorough claims that if we come to power, he will be able to sell petrol and diesel at half the prices what has been happening at that point of time. And subsequently, the deregulation of the prices has happened. I am also a lawyer by profession, so my limited understanding as a student of law, the economic theory behind the deregulation is if the international prices goes up, the consumers of this country is bound to pay more prices. And if the prices come down, then the consumers of this country is expected to get the benefit of the power prices. So after Modi government coming to power, at that point of time it was almost $105 per barrel. The crude was trading at $105 per barrel, and it came down to almost $30 per barrel, and lowest was $28 around one day, I think. So during this period, so I believe that the citizens of this country had an economic right to demand petrol and diesel at a lower price. But the one who had promised to deliver the petrol and diesel prices at a lower price, when he got the opportunity or this huge bonanza of this international crude price crash, then the government has revised or increased the excise duty by 9 times. And if you look at the figures it proves, the excise duty for diesel was raised 400%. 400% raise was there for the excise duty for diesel, and the price remained on the same. So I believe there was a looting happened in this country by the government. So the most celebrated sentence by our former Prime Minister, it was a legalized plunder happened in our loot happened in this country. Organized loot. So, what was the citizens' right, economic right, has been taken away by this government. So, this government has done something remarkably wrong to the citizens. That's what I feel.
You are absolutely right. But apart from that, when you are economically illiterate, then you make the kind of statements that were made in the run-up to the election of 2014. Very venerated leaders by former party, they went to town about petroleum product prices, petrol diesel prices. They went to town about the falling value of our democracy and all conventions, well-established conventions of our democracy, which are directly under attack from this government that is especially the Prime Minister. We all remember his first visit to Parliament after that, when he bowed down on the steps of Parliament building, and everyone got the feeling that now Parliament will play a very important role. Parliament has been completely emasculated. And the strength of the ruling coalition is such that any discordant voice will be shouted down, and it's happening. I was amazed when, not in the last session, but the session before that, the Telugu Desam party was moving this no confidence motion. And days passed, and every time the speaker will say, if there is din in the house and I can't count 50 people standing up for that no confidence motion. So throughout the session this continued to happen, and the no confidence motion was not taken up in that session. It only came in the next session. Now Lok Sabha is the basis on which a government exists. They exist on the basis of a majority in Lok Sabha. And if you are not able to count the numbers for a no confidence motion, then I had commented even at that time, that Parliament was failing in its most sacred, most elementary responsibility in not taking up and we are all aware how the din was created. Few people will walk into the well of the house and they start raising slogans. It was all manipulated. It was all engineered. And then during the intersession, after the session was over, the Prime Minister undertook a day's fast, you remember, for what happened in Lok Sabha. So whether it is Lok Sabha, Raj Sabha, Aadhaar bill being passed or described as money bill, then these amendments to various bills through the finance is very, very bad parliamentary practice. It should never have been allowed to happen. But it has happened and nobody is aware of it, nobody is bothered about it. The whole country is quiet, members of parliament are quiet. And why only that? I mean, in the last session, when the no confidence motion was taken up, it was debated, and you remember the Prime Minister's reply on what he said as far as employment generation was concerned. One chartered accountant, one lawyer, one this, one that, and he calculated all the jobs that they were going to create. And I said jokingly that a poor lawyer who just done his law degree will not be able to find employment for himself, much less find employment for others, So he goes on announcing those figures and everything goes unchallenged. That is because I'm saying this with a degree of regret. The left parties have very limited representation in Parliament today. Two, the Congress party has been reduced to such numbers, especially in the Lok Sabha, that they don't make their presence felt. And everybody else is on the side of the government. So it is government all the way in Parliament, and they are literally getting away with murder. Aadhaar bill being described as a money bill is murder of parliamentary democracy. And let me give you another example. This triple talaq bill or whatever ordinance has taken place now, this bill was taken to Lok Sabha. It was passed there on the strength of the government's majority. Then it went to Rajya Sabha. It was pending there because the government did not have the majority there to pass it. And now they have issued an ordinance on this. Yeah, I mean, the moment a bill is introduced in Parliament, it becomes Parliament's property. And all that you may as parliamentary practice or call and etc. Read any book, they will say a legislation which is pending in either House of Parliament cannot be the subject of an ordinance. They have done it by an ordinance. And where is the protest? There are no morchas in the streets. Even in the Houses of Parliament, everything is subdued. So if Rajiv had been there and I had been there, you would not have allowed this to happen.
Yeah, first of all, it's an honor for me to be participating in the hot seat. Thanks to Mathew and AIPC for giving this opportunity. So, Shiraji spoke about how the past dispensation has been systematically destroying all constitutional institutions, be it the Supreme Court, the Reserve Bank, the Film and Television Institute. But at the same time, by systematically destroying these institutions, the Modi dispensation has very cleverly, for lack of a better word, purchased the most important part of a free society, which is the media. So certain words that media people use, for example, anybody who dissents with Mr. Modi and team is very conveniently called an urban nexus. 3 days back, I saw 3 debates happening on prime time in English channels, but all the discussions were on urban nexus. And a day later, on his Chhattisgarh campaign trail, the Prime Minister himself uses this word, urban nexus, and says that somebody like the Congress Party and the President himself is siding with the urban nexus. Do you think that media has totally failed in the last 4 years to take out this facade out of the Narendra Modi government? And how are we going ahead? In which direction are we going ahead as a free society? What is your take on this?
Well, there is media present here, and I hope they don't mind what I'm going to say. The situation of the media today in this country is worse than what it was during the emergency between 1977. On the Rafale deal, Arun Shourie, Prashant Bhushan and I went to the press club in Delhi to address a press meet. And I said, we have said whatever we wanted to say. I don't know how much of it will be carried in the papers next morning, or how much of it will be shown on the TV. Nothing was shown on the TV, and some very few paragraphs were written in the morning papers. Now, after the formal press conference was over, a media person walked up to me and said rather challengingly, he said, "Will you give me a job if I lost mine?" You people, he said, you people talk about the pressure that we are under and the surrender that we make under that pressure, but we will lose our jobs if we don't obey. And I realized that the situation was much graver than perhaps we imagined. Every day there are some channels in Delhi. Every day they receive instructions from certain quarters of what the subject of discussion at 8 o'clock should be, who should be the anchor, and who should be the people from the opposition you should invite. So you invite a lallu from the opposition and some chap from the ruling party, and the anchor in any case belongs to the ruling party. So that together they will completely throttle the poor chap who is supposed to be representing the opposition party. And they get away thinking that they have made the evening a success. There are issues which are very important for the country that are not taken up for discussion, and some of these channels will only show the communal issues, including urban Naxals. And where is this term come from? Who is an urban Naxal? And if, I'm making this point with a great deal of regret, that people in government, they cannot make an allegation against somebody and not catch hold of it. Isn't it? If I were to say I was a minister and I would say that you have amassed massive wealth, then it's my duty to ensure that we catch hold of it. It is the government's duty to ensure that if there are urban Naxals who are living in air-conditioned houses and their children are studying abroad, then catch hold of them. But that they will not do. It will only be an election pitch, hoping to take advantage of people's gullibility, and that will be the end of the matter. Elections will be over and then these things will be forgotten. So it is very important issue that you have raised, and I don't know what can be done, but certainly we must take every opportunity to encourage the media. Please show truth to power. Don't hesitate in doing your duty, because there is nobody else in our democracy. Why is the media called the fourth estate? Because they perform this very important part in our democracy. And today, I am saying it on record that the media is not performing its duty, and that is why people are being misled throughout the country.
So we have a relatively free and fair media here. You will be blacked out in tomorrow's papers.
Sir, I have one basic growth. This demonetization process was brought mainly under black money. And there is black money. Black money is available here also in Cochin. It is there. For example, 2 weeks ago, I know a registration in Calicut, where a property worth around 40 crores was registered for 15 crores. So that means there is 25 crores floating around black money in one registration itself. So where has that black money gone? So only a few thousand crores returned to the RBI. Now where is it now existing? That is my doubt. Because second point was that they said that there is black money in the foreign accounts. That also has not been returned. So The demonetization process as such is a big failure. Again, as finance minister, I am just asking you. The black money is still there. I don't believe that the black money has disappeared from the market. It is still there. So you can take it even if you take the medical admission. Of course, NEET and all is there. But otherwise, in the medical education also, people are paying 4 or 4 rupees get admission. So from where they are getting that money? So as you said, that black money thing is gone. Second question, sir, is that as you are from Bihar, I was going through the Ganges last year. From Patna, I went down to university and go to the boat. Now there are open lanterns in background for Patna. And the Ganges go around there, Ganga Maidi, so what happened to the Ganga water? That's second question. Third question, I'll repeat this for you. So third question is regard. Yes. Third question, sir. No, because Mathew. Sir, I feel that many of these so-called projects, which were initiated by the UPA and previous governments, have just been given Sanskritized names with an ulterior motive. Indra-Dhanush, Brahmastra. You understand? It is the whole thing only, immunization program. Ayushman Bhava, the new Ayushman Bharat. The thing remains the same, sir, including the, the employment, the Indira Gandhi scheme at the time of that. So what percentage of schemes according to you are renamed now? I'm putting the percentage, total number of schemes which have been renamed. Now another naming process. Sir, all the cities of India are being renamed. Now again I have an objection, you can rename it. But when you rename it, sir, you cannot just go and rename it after a particular group of people only. I don't mean Hindu as such. In that the subclass is being used. There are other Dravidian, Mongoloid, you understand, and all people. Those names are not being used. The selective mythology is being taken up. I don't want to put it blatantly to someday. So blatantly it is being used to propagate a particular form of a religion when there are any number of subaltern forms of that religion. So that is not being used. So is that also including this Shabarimala fracas? It's a part of that. This is a part of a conspiracy to bring in some sort of a uniform religiosity or a religion in this country using the others, but not including our own peoples inside. I mean, within the Hindus itself, there are so many of the subaltern groups, including the tribals and the SC/STs. You know, Sir Mayavati has renamed many of these places Shahu Maharaj, and after in the parks and Gautam Buddha and all. It's not that way. So this is also a part of the scheme. So I want your opinion about these 3-4 things. And one more thing about Ayushman Bharat also, because they say that it is going to be the world's biggest health program. As a doctor, I know, sir, it is not practical. It is not at all practical that you provide 40% of the total population of India free health thing, unless through an insurance scheme. Instead of that, they are saying you put it in a trust and we know when that money is going to come back. We have our own schemes over here in Kerala like RSDY, whereby the government pays after 6 months. So all those schemes went down the drain. So probably this is going to go down the gutter. And incidentally, I just quote Advani and then stop. Regarding the press, what Advani said during the emergency is that when they were asked to crawl, when they were asked to bend, they preferred to crawl. Thanks.
So let's start with the number one.
Where is that money?
Where is that money gone? It has gone to the banks. You see, I was being
legalization of black money. They got an opportunity to legalize the black money.
Yeah. You know, I was very generous to Prime Minister Modi when I said what I said about demonetization. It's not only those 3-4 lakh crore. Why do you think he came out with this Jan Dhan Yojana? See, we must remember there is a saying in Hindi, Dur ki kaudi. Dur ki kaudi means that you pre-plan everything in advance. For instance, in the Rafale deal, after they told President Hollande of France that Anil Ambani should be a partner. They came back and changed the rules for offset. The point which we had agitated before the Supreme Court. Changed the rules. So in 2015, somebody was thinking that if I do this, then someday it might be found out. Then what is my defense? My defense is, oh, I didn't know. I was not concerned. It was not within my power. And change the rules. So, here in the case of black money, Jan Dhan was created before that. And millions of accounts. And there are now figures which are available to suggest that those millions of accounts had deposits which suddenly went up, after demonetization, and were withdrawn as quickly as they were deposited. So he created an avenue for all those who had black money to deposit it in some friendly Jan Dhan account and then take it back. Today, the money in circulation is larger than what it was in November 2016. And all this talk of formalizing the economy is all bogus. I came across a very senior journalist in Delhi whose daughter was getting married, and she was telling me that I went to the market to buy stuff for the wedding, and everywhere the shopkeeper will tell me, "Madam, please give me money in cash." And that money in cash without paying GST would be black money. So fresh generation of black money is happening from the example that you gave of the real estate purchase. So black money was deposited through the medium of Jan Dhan. It came back and it is now ruling the roost in our markets. That is what it is. So that is why we all agree that demonetization did not solve the problem of black money. And the foreign black money indicates whether it is this disclosure, that disclosure, nothing at all has happened. Have you seen anyone being put in jail on this count? No. They are going at a glacial speed. Why that? I mean, Raghuram Rajan submitted to the Prime Minister that list of willful defaulters in our system. That was January of 2015, and no action has been taken. Probably those people who are advised you flee the country, and many of them have fled the country. And no action was taken. Just imagine, I mean, you give the list to the PMO and nothing happens. So that was as far as demonetization is concerned.
Renaming of the scheme.
Yeah. By renaming any place, you are erasing a part of our history. Why was that name given? So, unless it is something which is connected with, let's say, the honor of the nation and its people. But if we accept the fact that we are a composite society where people of every faith, every persuasion can lead their own lives, and they have been part of history, these names have been part of history, and you change the name, then you are playing with history, you are erasing history. So, I am totally against that practice. It has started. Now I am quite sure some other regime will come and restore the original name. It happened in UP. Mayawati changed it, Mulayam Singh changed it back. So that is quite likely to happen.
Sir, on Swachh Bharat. Swachh Bharat and Ganga. Ganges.
The Clean Ganga mission has been a total failure like demonetization. You travel along the Ganga and you will find that it's exactly the same, as dirty as it used to be, and nothing has happened. Swachh Bharat, I will tell you, you might look for it in Kerala or Bihar. Go to Gujarat. I have been to Gujarat many times recently. Because if you want to tackle a lion, it's best tackle in his den. So I have been to Gujarat a number of times, travelled extensively by car, and you find Gujarat is as dirty as any other state in this country. So 12 years as Chief Minister, over 4 years as Prime Minister, one state has not been clean. Just go outside on way to Rajkot from Ahmedabad and you will come across a market yard. See the confusion in traffic there, see the things which are lying on the road. Very Swachh Bharat. I mean, it's a very laudable effort, but this is not the way to go about it, and certainly not the way to claim that it has succeeded. Or Ujjwala Yojana, Ayushman Bharat, as you said. But then, if the media is crawling, everything will become justified, and we'll get figures like every village has been electrified in this country. Every village has been connected by road. Piyush Goyal made this claim yesterday at the ET award function, that every village has been connected by an all-weather road and every village has got electricity. We can find out for ourselves what the real state is.
Now I will question you.
Sir, you passingly mentioned about RBI. The crucial thing is happening. Or there is a debate which is happening, and there is also speculation maybe RBI government might step down.
What is happening to RBI is a matter of great worry for anyone who is familiar with the financial affairs of this country. Day before, this news came that government was planning to make RBI a board-run organization. And that meant that they will take away the powers of the RBI governor and vest them in the board. And the board has already been fitted with people who will toe the government line. So the government wants to control RBI like it controls every other organization. And RBI autonomy will become a thing of the past. RBI gives to the government dividends every year, like other public sector undertakings. And that amount has been rising. I think, if I am not mistaken, pre-demonetization, that amount was almost 55,000-60,000 crore rupees in 1 year. Post-demonetization, because the RBI spent a lot of money on printing notes and transporting, all that dividend came down to around 30,000 crore. Now, the government is eyeing completely wrongly what is called the reserves of the RBI. These reserves are notional. They are not money in hand that you can snatch away from my hand and give to somebody else. This is all notional in order to meet the liabilities of the RBI. Take the foreign exchange, for instance. For every foreign exchange which comes into our country, there is a rupee which belongs to somebody else. So what happens? The RBI is only collecting the foreign exchange and giving the rupees. So when the rupees are deposited with the RBI and they say, we want our dollars, RBI will have to honor it. So these reserves are notional. And I don't know whether anyone in this government understands these things, that the reserves are notional. And you take away from that reserve, and tomorrow there was a contingency, and the RBI needed that money, where will they get the money from? So this is the most illogical thing that the government is planning to do, and issuing an order, instruction under Section 7 of the RBI Act will be the ultimate humiliation of the RBI. And I had tweeted when I heard about this, I had said, even if the government has started consultations, which is required by law, with the RBI governor to give directions under Section 7, then the RBI governor should resign. He should go home. I mean, he had already surrendered to the government on the question of demonetization. Now the very existence of the RBI, as we have known it all these years, is under threat. And why should Urjit Patel preside over the liquidation of the RBI? He should quit. If tomorrow in the board they say or do anything or pass a resolution which is against his wishes, he has no option but to go.
My name is Abhijit. I'm a research scholar. You have been an IAS officer, a bureaucrat, and then you have been a minister who has worked under Vajpayee. And in your previous interviews with Sri Karan Thapar and Paranjali Thakur, you had mentioned that the Gujarat model has been brought to Delhi. So as far as demonetization is concerned, or as far as the economy is concerned, where does the buck stop? Does it stop with the finance minister, or does it stop with the prime minister, or is it with the bureaucrats, who are supposedly, according to the Gujarat model, controlling the ministries? The reason is, a few days back, the RTI had revealed that the RBI, on the day of the demonetization, told no, black money and FICN are definitely not the reason, or cannot be quoted as reasons for this exercise. But ultimately that was quoted. So can the RBI say, look, the bureaucrats say, we told you, this is not acceptable. But then the announcement was made. So where does the buck stop?
The buck certainly does not stop with the finance minister. Poor chap himself did not know that demonetization was going to. So what this is a strange way in which this cabinet is functioning. And I am going entirely by newspaper reports that the day Bharatiya Janata Party decided to withdraw support from the Mehbooba Mufti government in Jammu and Kashmir, and it was clear that governor's rule will be imposed. The Home Minister was sitting in an office, and he saw it on TV screens that this is what has happened, and now governor's rule will have to be imposed. He was not privy to this happening. The finance minister was not privy to the decision to demonetize. He learned about it only when he walked into the cabinet meeting. The defense minister at the time did not know that we were going to buy 36 Rafales in flyaway condition from France. And the poor external affairs minister, as newspapers have themselves described her, become a tweet minister. She has nothing else to except tweet here and there and look after some very minor functions of the external affairs ministry. So these are the four senior most ministers of the cabinet. The RBI covered itself with mud when they went along with the Prime Minister's diktat and agreed to demonetize. despite the caveats, as you mentioned, they were not enough. Like Raghuram Rajan, Urjit Patel should also have said that demonetization is a foolish step and we are not in favor of it. But he allowed that to pass, and therefore, he and the RBI are facing a much greater challenge than crisis. So it is not only Parliament, it certainly is Parliament, it is the Cabinet, it is the Supreme Court, it is the Election Commission, all the highly respected institutions of our democracy are being treated in this cavalier fashion.
Just to extend on what the last, see, now what we are seeing is a kingly style of functioning by the Prime Minister, an autocratic style of functioning. In that sense, if you consider the case of demonetization, the Finance Minister was not consulted or he was not taken into confidence, and the Home Minister, as you rightly said, in many decisions, they are not there. And the major decision, the cabinet colleagues are also not being taken into confidence. And that shows that, rather than a prime ministerial approach, a kingly approach has been developed in this country to Narendra Modi. So I was wondering whether it would be because of this RSS upbringing had something to do with that. Is he finding it difficult to isolate himself from his ideological mentors? So earlier also we had a Prime Minister Vajpayee who had from the same listing, but to what extent you have felt that being a minister with him? Is it because of the influence of the ideological mentors, this sort of functioning or style of functioning is coming out? And this is directly, I believe, this is directly against the good governance that they have promised in 2014. Because we are a democratic country, we are a parliamentary democracy. Definitely a kingly style of functioning is obviously against the good governance that has been promised.
I would say that it is the present Prime Minister's personal style. He worked according to this style in Gujarat, and that's how Gujarat model became famous. It was Chief Minister, Chief Minister's office, CMO, and the departmental secretaries, or the collectors in the districts to whom they carried on whatever they wanted to do. Now he has introduced the same model here. It is Prime Minister, PMO, and the departmental ministerial secretaries, to whom directly the instructions go. The minister may or may not know. So, why are things failing? They are failing because you can do it in a small state like Gujarat. You cannot enforce it in the whole country. This country is too large, too diverse to be controlled from one center. It must continue to have multiple centers of decision making and control. As well as comparison between Vajpayee and the present Prime Minister is concerned, I'll say there is absolutely no comparison. Because despite the stock from which Mr. Vajpayee came, he behaved in a very different fashion. And if there were differences between him and the RSS, then he prevailed. And I can tell you, as a member of his cabinet, that there were occasions where we were under strict instructions not to throw the RSS down. So that is the way he ran his government, and that is why he had friends across the political spectrum, and he was respected along the entire political spectrum of the country and by the people of the country. Ultimately, as somebody told me years and years ago, when you are dead and going on your last journey, what will people say about you? And he told me, if they say Mr. X was a good man, I would consider having lived my life well. Will they say this about the Prime Minister?
Just this last Friday, 16, Times of India had a rare front page article, interview reportage on Gurumurthy Swadeshi Jagaramach, who was being recently introduced into the RBI Director Board. I need 2 points to you. One, he has made an observation that, of course, he has been making the government case to the RBI because he is a financial analyst and CA from a more sophisticated point. He made a point that, according to him, now what he sees is that, unlike US, India, like Japan, is a bank-dependent economy. Whereas US is more of a market-dependent economy. So that is why this, when the economy is in doldrums, problems, they are put government and they are putting pressure. So such a distinction, I would like to have your take on it. As a distinction between the US, like Japan, India is a bank-dependent economy. So if the bank that loans and other things suffers, that world economy suffers. And he compares that Japan, whereas US is a market-dependent. So I haven't heard this thing before.
I haven't heard of this distinction myself, and unless I understand what Mr. Gurumurthy means by saying we are a bank-dependent country with huge unbanked areas, huge number of unbanked people. How are we a bank economy dependent on banks? And US certainly is a market-dependent economy, where there the market forces decide what course the economy will take. But unless I understand what Gurumurthy actually meant, I will not be able to comment on it.
Just for example, the Korean economic revival is exclusively Korean type of family, state, private sector, like say Samsung, Hyundai, that type of. I don't know whether it is. That's one thing. The second question, compared to the earlier NDA government, where the intellectuals, Arun Shuri and you, and many people have very iconic positions. This time, as an observer of the media, the critical observer of the media, I noticed that this time the NDA under PM Modi has got some advice. What I have said is that it is better not to include the intellectuals. And so Shuri and many earlier stars was not included. And now they are not in the, there were some problems they have since then. Now recently only, this Gurumurthy, with the Swadeshi government, he had his own analysis. For example, he was arguing for a long time for the Swadeshi government and the Indian type of microfinancing and type of that router in Tamil Nadu, that type of finance. But he was saying that RBI was not supporting it. So, though he was part of the government, his economic ideas was not given any support from the government. But now he is in government because the dire straight the economy is. So only one intellectual and ideologue we can see the part of the government. So, you got anything to say on it?
He is only a member of the RBI board. He is not part of the government. That does not make him part of the government. If you were a bureaucrat or he was a minister, then he would have been considered to be a part of the government. But I don't describe myself as an intellectual at all. And I had opted out of being part of anything connected with the present Prime Minister in 2014 itself.
Sir, we have been reduced to a farcical democracy now in many senses. You yourself have quoted how the parliamentary procedures have been overrun by this government. You quoted how the parliamentary procedures have been overrun by this government, especially vis-a-vis the money bills regarding Aadhaar and procedures which are being followed. So we are in a state where a rule of law prevails, constitutionally bound, constitutionally supreme in this country. And then we created through the parliamentary democracy several standalone institutions, autonomous institutions like RBI, CBC, CBI, the Election Commission, the judiciary. Now systematically over this past 4.5 years, we've seen that they've all been encroached and their territories have been encroached by the government. And this government which came in and saying maximum governance and needs government is today actually the reverse. They've actually taken over most of these institutions, and independent instrument media too is becoming more subservient to this policy. Do you actually feel that this we are at a borderline between democracy and a totalitarian state?
We certainly are at an inflection point, and if the people of India don't rise against these trends, then we'll be in for a great deal of trouble. I mean, then this country will not be run like it has been run in the past. It will be run in a very different way. When I was telling you that conventions of parliament have been given a go by, one simple convention of parliament is that when parliament is in session, then no policy announcement will be made outside. Now it is being ignored with impunity, and there is no protest. There was a very healthy tradition in our country that when you are traveling abroad on foreign soil, you will not discuss domestic politics, certainly not those in government. But through the stratagem of addressing NRIs, the Prime Minister is breaking it every day, and we are all lapping it up. Nobody remembers that convention. So many conventions of parliamentary democracy have been violated with impunity. Someday somebody should sit down and prepare a list of all these conventions which have been broken. But very dangerous, right? Very, very dangerous.
No small clarification. When the demonetization took place, there was a report in media saying that the entire idea came from an NGO based in Pune called Ardharani Sanstha. Their idea was to have monetary printed money at small notes, 5 rupees, 10 rupees, up to 100 rupees. The monetary transactions were to be limited to 5,000 rupees, and everything else is to be done through the banking channels. And there was to be a banking transaction tax, and they estimated the total banking transaction volume of 85 lakh crores. And they said that should be replaced in the income tax, and the banking transaction tax should be equal. As a former finance minister, what is your take on this? Is it a viable thing or not?
The Ardhakranti people had come before the 2009 elections and made a presentation saying the same thing to Mr. Advani. And in that meeting, I had openly said that it was the most impractical thing that they were suggesting. It could never be implemented. And the world over, everyone agrees to a general rule that as far as possible, financial transactions should not be taxed. And if you say that every transaction will be through the bank, then if it is not, what will you do? What will you do? And limit it to 5,000 and then tax every financial transaction, which means that the same transaction will be taxed multiple times. So these are people without any experience of how the economy functions. They come out with hair-brained ideas, and there are people who are prepared to listen.
So as long as you are running out of time, you have to take it online. You might have. Can I ask you?
Good evening, everyone. We have been on live in Facebook and Twitter for the past 2 months' time, and from among 25 plus questions asked in Facebook and Twitter, we have sorted some 6 questions. The first question is from Mr. Bhargav, who is a senior communication professional. He asks, do you think the present government could have done better in handling various institutions like the RBI and the CBI?
Never in the history of India has the relationship between the RBI and the union government had turned so ugly, though there were differences earlier which were amicably solved. Who has to be blamed here? And his second question, do you think India has...
What is the question on the first? RBI and government is in a very sad state at the moment. There have been differences in the past. And the governor of the RBI, being the weaker party, he is quit. So that option is available to the present governor also.
The second question is from Ms. Sindhu Ranjit. What, sir, in your opinion, is the biggest learning for history and Sindhu is from Kerala, Cochin, I guess. I just got the question on Facebook. What, sir, is your opinion in the biggest learning for history and future governments in the implementation of demonetization and GST? It's the biggest learning for history from this government.
Biggest learning? No, demonetization is a lesson which you must remember for a long time to come and not repeat the mistake. Actually, we did not take time to discuss GST, on which I could have held forth. But GST...
You were the chairman.
Yeah, we commented on the GST bill, we commented on the Aadhaar bill also. And throughout the Aadhaar bill, lock, stock and barrel. But the GST is a very good tax, very badly implemented. It's caused enormous avoidable problems, especially to the small man.
The third question is from Advocate Veena Nair. She's from Trivandrum. During the UPA regime, we saw the civil society rising against corruption. Despite having many large-scale corruption allegations against Modi regime, including the recent Rafael leak, why do you think the civil society is reluctant to come forward with protests?
Like everybody else, they are also afraid.
There are two Twitter questions. The first is from Ms. Geeta Saini. Demonetization has led to huge loss in the MSME sector. Still, so many are struggling for their livelihood, and yet there has been no concrete measures to improve it. So how are we going to help these sectors, and what is your opinion on this?
These sectors which have suffered immensely as a result of demonetization have only to wait now for a few months. A new government will be installed after the next year.
The final question is from Mr. James Strong. There was an insurance policy called Universal Health Insurance available for everyone for just ₹300 during your term as Finance Minister, which has been discontinued by the Modi government. What is your take on it?
As somebody said, this government will go down in history as the biggest name-changer government. So that's what they have done. We have already, on authority of a doctor saying that this will not succeed. Where is the infrastructure for success of Ayushman Bharat? Where are the doctors and the ancillary staff to be able to cater to the need of 40% of the population? But it was a big media event, like everything else. And in the next, whatever time, 6 months is left, we'll have some more media events.
So, in view of our senior members, Shantakumar and all of them had questions for you, but unfortunately we are running out of time, and sorry to all my colleagues and friends gathered here, and on behalf of AIPC, I will invite Shantakumar to formally tender a vote of thanks to conclude the session.
I have a question. Why have you picked up मेरे प्यारे देशवासियों?
Because this is the starting. All this announcement comes with this. So we said that मेरे प्यारे देशवासियों. Now this he
doesn't want to be called an anti-national. Today.
Sorry, before concluding, I just want to have one more question. So Professional Congress is an organization which tries to engage professionals and encourage them to come and join politics. So being a senior member of the leader, with all your experience, what do you think the professionals can effectively
in case of politics compared to the alliance?
I'll give a very brief reply, and that reply is, if professionals do not join politics, the character of our politics will never. We can't just hide behind the fact that every politician is corrupt and a bad person, and we'll also become bad if we were to join politics. So my request to all professionals is, look after your profession, look after your family, but also look after your country.
Okay.
Yeah, Secretary Chief Guest of the AIPC, Yeswanth Singha, the former Finance Minister of the country, the other AIPCs, the members of the press and media. We had a very wonderful interactive session with Mr. Secretary. He has touched upon demonetization, about the GST, the two great things which the government was supposed to have done, which have both landed the government and the country in a lot of problems. As you rightly said, demonetization was started with one goal, and as Mr. Rajiv said, they have been shifting the goal from one to another. They cannot achieve any of the things which they wanted to achieve. And since they cannot achieve it, they were shifting the goal. They were saying it was first one thing, and later on they said it is for bringing black money back. Then they said it is for digitization, and so many other things were mentioned. And none of the goals which were intended to be achieved were achieved. And they were trying to justify the actions. They're saying that now people will be filing all the income tax returns and will be recovering all the money which was supposed to recover, and going putting 15 lakhs in each one's account will be achieved in that manner. And regarding the GST, like Dr. Manmohan Singh, it's a good law, and Sir was also just mentioning that it's a good law which was very poorly implemented. As a practicing chartered accountant, noticed that from 2010 we have been studying this GST law, and when the law was originally formulated, we had the law, the act, the rules and the forms which are all going in tandem, and it will be following one after the other. And when this government implemented the GST law in a hurry, what was done is the forms were all changed. And they said that the network system which was supposed to be a super computer, which was reduced because I don't know whether it was some bureaucratic interference or not, it was changed. And the system was not able to withstand the 85 lakhs assessees returns being filed simultaneously. So the system crashed. Then finally the government found that they were not getting any money. So they have to introduce a new form by which all the things were put together and it stopped working. So you notice that 1.10 lakhs was supposed to be the collections per month, and it was reduced to 64,000 crores. Not even 1 lakh was touched. So in every front you would see that there has been a failure. And as it was being mentioned, that this government, in all spheres, they are putting their own people and starting interfering in every activity. And then, now they are trying to change the system altogether. Modi has become an autocrat and he wants to be like a presidential election. That is being done. So, we had a very interactive, thoughtful session with Mr. Singha. And as a professional Congress member, and on my behalf and on behalf of everybody assembled here, and our President, Mr. Mathew, and others, I give my great thanks for having come over all the way. Unlike on various aspects, because he has worked on both sides, as a bureaucrat and also as a minister, so he has been seen and he has traveled extensively throughout the country and he has been able to give us a fair idea of what is happening in this country. And we have Mr. Rajiv and other members of the parliament and assembly here, and they have raised good questions. So it was very encouraging, and I would say that the third hot seat program was a grand success. And Mr. Mathew has always been taking initiative in this, and even though he is a president, I cannot but thank him because he has been giving opportunity for all of us to assemble here and put our heads together and present this. Thank you, Mr. Mathew. And I thank all the press, members of the visual media, and like Sinha said, this will get a wide coverage, and let us hope that the press will take a lead from what he said and try to report without any fear or favor. Thank you very much.
they have been reduced when you form, that is